My dad chose his girlfriend and her daughter over me for years in the name of fairness. Now he's furious I won't help him after his injury. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I haven't been in touch with my dad since I was 18. Since I was a child, my dad made sure I knew that I was not welcomed by him. Why, you ask? Well, when my mom was pregnant with me, she found out that she had cancer. She was given a choice, either to go along with the pregnancy and die, or get an abortion, get treated, and never be able to mother a child again. My mother chose to have me, even though my dad did not want that. My dad wanted her to go for an abortion and get treated, but my mom insisted on having me. So, when I was born, that was the day my mom died. Since my mom's death, my dad had never been the same, according to my grandparents. Since childhood, my dad has always screamed at me, shouted at me, and blamed me for mom's death and everything. He did everything that one would expect him not to do with a child, but he did it with no guilt whatsoever. When I was 7, my dad decided that it would be the right time to start dating. He dated around for a while and chose every single girl over me. If he had to choose between getting ready for a date versus making sure I was home from school, you can bet he did the first one. After he did it 3 times, my school called CPS on him. I don't know what my dad told them, but after getting called by CPS, my dad started showing up to pick me up from school, but he was not too happy about it. This was going on for about 2 years, until he met Macy. Macy was about Dad's age, a year or 2 younger. I was 9, Dad was 34, and Macy was probably 32 or 33. They met because Macy was a single mom as well, and her daughter was in my class. Macy had just moved to our neighborhood, and her daughter Lena joined our class. Soon enough, they started dating. Every day, Macy would be there to pick me and Lena up, but once we were home, they would simply not go home. It was like they did not have a place of their own. They would stay over for hours, chatting and playing house with my dad, who would be ignoring me. Soon, they stopped taking their stuff home with them. It took me a while to realize that Macy and Lena were moving in with us. Dad and Macy were pretty serious about one another, or so they said. Every time I told Dad that I wanted to do something or go somewhere, he always insisted I ask Macy. Now at first, Macy was okay with me, before she moved in. But once she had moved in, her entire personality changed. Whenever I went to Macy to ask for permission, she would say no. She no longer wanted to treat me like I was a daughter to her too. She wanted Dad to treat Lena like she was his only daughter, and my dad did. I was like a slave living under their roof. Every time there was a choice, I knew that there was actually no choice because my dad would choose Lena and Macy over me. It was tiring. It was exhausting. Nothing I did was ever good enough for them. Sometimes I could not take it, like on my 14th birthday when I begged my dad to get me this funky-looking watch. It was not too expensive, but it was a good amount of money. I told him that he did not have to get me anything for Christmas or New Year's if he got me the watch. What did my dad do? On my birthday, he gave Lena the watch because it's only fair, and as Macy and Lena are guests, they deserve the gifts. What did I get for my birthday? Nothing, because my dad could not be bothered. It irritated me to no end. I could not understand why my father treated me this way. When I was 16, Macy and I got into an argument because Macy wanted Lena to have my room, which was a bit bigger. I told her that it was not possible because A, this was my room first, and B, all of my stuff would not fit in Lena's room. Like, my study desk was not going to fit in Lena's room if my bed was also put there. My desk was a gift from my grandparents. And you know what Macy did? She spoke with my dad and got him to move Lena into my room without moving any of the furniture. So, the desk that was mine, Lena was using it. She poured paint on that antique desk because she thought it was not pretty enough. I was so angry, and when I asked my dad why he did what he did, he said it was fair. How was it fair? How was anything that he was doing fair? I did not get it, but he never explained. That is why when I turned 18, I moved out. I got myself a scholarship and moved out. I went a whole 6-hour drive away. And you know what happened next? Lena too wanted to go where I was going, except she did not have the scholarship. So my dad, who told me that he did not have the money to send me to college, gave her the money to go to the same college. Why? Because it's fair. Yeah, so as you have probably guessed, I moved out and I never got back in touch with him. I have not been in touch with my dad since I was 18. Lena was in my college, but I know she dropped out, essentially wasting my dad's money. But hey, that's what you get for being so fair. Anyway, now, 7 years later, my dad reached out to me. Since I went to college, no calls. But now that he's on bed rest because he broke his hip bone, he called me. He wanted me to move in with him and take care of him while he gets better because I'm his daughter. I told him he can frick off, but more politely, and refused to visit him. I told him that he had always preferred or prioritized Lena over me, so he can ask her to drop by. Turns out, Macy broke up with my dad and left him after, 10 years of relationship? When Lena dropped out of college, they did not give him the money back. So now my dad is short on money. Well, boo-hoo for him. I told him that he can ask other people for help and told him to never contact me again. He did not want to accept this, and I got bombarded with messages from my grandparents and aunt calling me the a-hole for abandoning my old dad, my only family. So my question is, Ita, if not, then what should I do? Update 1. My aunt called me again, and she told me that I'm being a huge ungrateful brat for leaving my senile dad to fend for himself when he has a broken hip bone. So I went off on her. I told her that she knew what my dad was doing. It was not like my dad called me a mistake and a killer of his wife only behind closed doors. She was aware of this, and she never stopped him when he repeatedly chose Macy and Lena over me. She did not stop him. Nobody did. My father abandoned me way before I abandoned him, and I don't understand why I'm the only one getting a scolding for doing that when he should be the one who is condemned, as he abandoned his child. When I went off on her, my aunt was quiet. Once I was done, she said, as expected, that this is the way of things. This is how things just are, and I should prioritize my family over other people. Plus, Lena and Macy took my dad's money, so it would be good if I did not bring them up. I reminded my aunt that she lived 30 minutes from my dad, and if she cared that much about him, she could be the one to take care of him. And if she could not do it, I failed to see why she thought that I, someone who is 6 hours away, would be able to do it. That led to my aunt hanging up on me. So I would say we had a very productive conversation. I have also gone back to therapy. My therapist said I should find my ground and stick to my boundaries because I deserve respect and to be treated like an adult. While they treated me like a slave when I was young, that does not mean they can do it now when I'm 25. I agree with her, so I have been very diligent about my boundaries. Update 2. My dad called me and he went off on me. My aunt called him and lied through her teeth, saying that I called her names, which I never did. Dad thinks I'm an ungrateful brat, and it would have been better if I had died instead of my mom. Now, these words. I have heard them so many times that I've lost count. Usually, when I hear them, I feel sad. I feel hurt. But this time, no. This time I felt angry, and I did not hide it. I went off on him like I went off on my aunt. I told him that if he loved my mom that much, he would have respected my mom's decision to have me, and he would have cared for me because I am a part of mom too. But he never did, which makes me wonder how far his love truly went for my mom. I also suggested that he call Lena or Macy up to take care of him because it is only fair. He reached out to the daughter he loves so much, as opposed to this ungrateful brat that I am. That shut him up. I told my dad that I told my aunt to take care of him, and if he wants, I can send him money so that he can hire someone to take care of him. But if he thought I was going to come to him, then he is wrong. My dad agreed with the money, so that is what I'm going to do. Update 3. So, my dad now has a caretaker, paid by yours truly. I'm doing this much, and that stopped all of those hateful calls from my aunts and grandparents. If, by spending this small amount of money, I can get mental peace, so be it. But I have also decided that I do not want to take care of him ever again. So I called Lena and threatened her with legal action about the money she stole from my dad. I was bluffing, but it worked. So Lena is moving back with my dad, and they can have their happy family while I change my phone number and ghost all of them. Your dad never deserved you, OP. NTA. I have wanted to be a parent for a long time, and I know that I would have never treated my child the way your father treated you, OP. You did the right thing, and I'm so sorry you had to go through this. Next story. My oldest is almost 12 and in 6th grade. He's a good kid, but like all 12-year-olds, likes pushing boundaries. Last night, I woke up in the middle of the night and noticed the iPad was missing from its usual spot on the living room desk. I went up to see if any of the kids had it in their rooms. I went into my oldest son's room and he was on it, watching Netflix. He had headphones in and didn't hear me come in, so he was surprised. It was around 2 a.m., so I told him to get to bed. He had to get up at 6:30 for school. I woke him up at the normal time, and he said he was too tired to go. I told him that was too bad, and his consequence for staying up late was having to go to school. He went but came home and went right to sleep. My wife was working all night and missed all of this. So when he got home and went to sleep, she asked me if he was sick. I told her he wasn't sick, just tired from being up all night. She said it was a dick move to make him go to school when I knew he was tired. She said we could have punished him another way, but I think natural consequences are the most effective. I do the majority of the day-to-day parenting since my wife works a lot, and I know this works for all 3 of them. She still thinks he should have stayed home and said that I'm going to ruin his sleep schedule. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Thank you for all the responses. My wife wanted to let him stay home but ban him from the iPad for a week. She wanted him to be punished but thought I went about it the wrong way. She doesn't cuddle any of the kids, and I am generally the softer parent. She works a lot, and I'm home, so I handle the day-to-day kid stuff. She doesn't. So I think this was a case of her not understanding that natural consequences tend to work better for our kids than imposing punishments. She's at work again, but I will discuss it with her later. She's not a bad person, nor does she spoil our kids, like many of the comments believe. Yeah, I'm going to say NTA. There was a consequence to the action. The punishment fit the crime as far as I can tell. It sucks going to school on very little sleep would suck, but if he hadn't been up late watching movies, he wouldn't be in that position. I do wonder why he had access to technology at that time, though. Perhaps it's not ideal to have access to devices when he should be sleeping. NTA, not even a little bit. He knew what he was doing when he snuck the iPad into his room to watch a movie. And if you hadn't caught him, then I'm sure he would have tried to pretend to be sick to get out of school. You taught him a valuable lesson. Actions have consequences. He didn't get hurt from learning this lesson. You're totally fine here. NTA. Having to do something you're supposed to do, in this case, going to school, is not punishment. Next story, my husband and I got engaged in early March and married in December of last year. When my husband's father asked about honeymoon plans, we told him we were trying to plan something after the wedding, in late April or early May. We told him we were saving my paid time off 10 days per year to take one big trip for the year, our honeymoon. This year, we also bought a house last year, so between wedding planning and moving, we haven't really gotten around to actually booking the tickets for the honeymoon yet. My father-in-law floated the idea of having the whole family go to Hawaii this year, but we explicitly told him that we would not be able to make that trip because we were planning our honeymoon, and we couldn't do both in the same year. Then, 2 weeks ago, my father-in-law tells us that he has booked an all-inclusive paid vacation for us, my sister-in-law, and her husband and kids, his other sister, father-in-law's girlfriend, girlfriend's daughter, son, and their partners. Everyone in my husband's family is going on this trip, which is paid for entirely by my father-in-law. Then both his father and sister started asking and pressuring us to join this trip. I know that a free trip to Hawaii sounds like an ideal situation, but the trip is in mid-April of this year. I really wanted to use my paid time off for my husband and I to go abroad for 2 weeks. If we go to Hawaii, I'll either have to reschedule the honeymoon possibly for next year, which is upsetting in itself because I feel like my honeymoon has been hijacked by a trip I can't say no to. Or we'll have to cut the honeymoon short in order to do both this year. At first, I told my husband I was mad that his dad is planning this trip and guilt-tripping us into going, knowing for almost a year that this is the same time frame we were planning our honeymoon for. My husband said he didn't want to go without me, and so hesitantly, I have agreed to go because I don't want to be the reason he misses a trip of a lifetime with his family. But internally, I'm still pissed that I feel like my honeymoon got hijacked. I don't want to be a brat. I recognize that this is an amazing opportunity, but I really wanted to go on my honeymoon with my husband, not my husband and his entire family. I wish I could be excited about the Hawaii trip, but I just feel disappointed that my father-in-law planned this trip when he knew we were planning a honeymoon, and then got everyone in the family on board so we'd have to say yes or end up being the a-holes by missing it. My husband has been supportive, but my friends have told me that my anger about this is misplaced and that I would be an a-hole for refusing to change our honeymoon plans and missing the Hawaii trip with my husband and his family. AITA. For being upset about having to push off or shorten my honeymoon plans to accommodate my husband's family's trip? NTA. There's no way I would give in. Your father-in-law is in a hole for ignoring your explicit wishes by involuntarily including you. It's a power play, demonstrating his wishes are more important than yours and that he can buy your compliance. NTA. I'd make sure your husband understands that this will fully hijack your honeymoon and now next year's trip is just going to be a trip. And once he knows that's how you're going to feel about it, let him decide if you are still going because you won't be able to change how you feel. You won't be able to psych yourself up the same way or have the same enthusiasm planning and going on that trip now. And if you do the whole, it will still be our honeymoon. And then don't have that same excitement planning it as you had the first time, he's probably going to notice. NTA. Your pushy father-in-law overstepped his boundaries, weaponizing generosity and the promise of fun to get his way. He knew what your plan was. The reason he didn't care, you are married to his son. You need to exert your own authority over your marriage. Don't go. If you go, this will set the precedent that what your father-in-law says is default and overrides what you want. Your plans matter, but to make them matter, you have to assert yourself. I have a feeling you'll have to assert yourself a lot with your in-laws. Best get practicing now before you bring kids into it. Next story. I'm female, 48, and my husband, 48 male, started a business with his brother a couple of years ago. Lately, he's been complaining to me about our finances and my spending. Today, I had to make a purchase for my new job, It'll be reimbursed. It wasn't a lot, $70. He asked what it was for. I told him. He asked if I had checked the credit card, which apparently was maxed. I asked him if he's even bringing in any money because I don't remember the last time I saw a deposit from him. Meanwhile, my full-time job and first part-time job pay on opposite weeks, so I have money coming in weekly. Because at the start of his business, he took out a very large sum of money from our joint account without talking to me about it, hoping I wouldn't notice and planning to have it back in a couple of days. It's been a year and a half at least. I separated my money and opened my own account. When my pay comes in, I transfer it into the joint account to cover the mortgage and some bills. When the other pay comes in, I try to keep an emergency fund, and I'm using my part-time money to pay down my student loans. I took a third job because it's still not covering enough. Today, I found out they are paying one of their workers about $2,000 a week. My husband deposits $1,500 to $3,000 once every 4 to 6 weeks as his pay. I blew my top finding out that his employee is making nearly twice what he is making, bringing home. I told him that he needs to get a part-time job because I have 3 and he's still complaining that I'm the one not contributing enough. 3 jobs, none of which pay that badly for the industries. Okay, one pays less than it should, but it's still reasonable. IT for expecting him to provide more than he is? I'm not asking him to close his business, but somehow he has to contribute more than $3,000 a month. Edit, thank you everyone for your input. I'm weighing a lot of options right now. Some points for clarification. 1. It's a contracting business. They hire the trades with the exception of the permanent employee. 2. My issue isn't so much what they're paying their employee, he does good work and he's worth his pay. It's the disparity that bothers me the most. They are planning on bringing him in as a partner, and either they have and he's lying to me about it, or they haven't but are honoring the terms of the proposed partnership, in that he would be making roughly 50%, and my husband and his brother would share the other 50%, so 25% each. Big no from sister-in-law and I. 3. I'm still open to questions, opinions, and advice. Just wanted to toss in a couple of edits. I think it's time to switch bank accounts and save up money to hire yourself a shiny new divorce lawyer. You are seriously being financially abused. You'll be questioned about your expenses when he's bringing in no income. On top of that, he expects you to slave away so you both can stay afloat. He is not bringing in nearly enough to support you both, and you shouldn't have to be the only one trying to survive on a sinking ship. It's time to find a different vessel and leave your husband to drown in piles of debt while you focus on building a better life without him. NTA, OP. Either your husband is quite literally the worst at math, or he's pocketing more money than you think. Either way, if you have to have 3 jobs to support both of you, that's outrageous, and he needs to either prove that this business is worth it and bring in money, or sell his part of the business to his friend. How convinced are you that his business even exists? NTA. If they can afford to pay his employees that much, they can afford to pay him more. That being said, maybe I'm being cynical, particularly because it's a red flag of mine, and he took a substantial sum from your joint savings without discussing it with you. Are you sure he's not receiving more income and hiding it?